I still remember the exact moment everything fell apart. There I was, sitting in Silicon Dynamics' glass-walled conference room, the one we jokingly called the fishbowl, staring at faces I'd worked alongside for 5 years. The quarterly all-hands meeting had been going smoothly until CEO Mark Brennan unveiled what he called our evolved leadership approach. What he described wasn't evolution. It was extinction of everything that made our company special. "We need to tighten ship," Mark announced, pacing in his custom Italian shoes. "The era of flexible hours and collaborative decision-making is creating inefficiencies. Starting Monday, we're implementing mandatory 8-to-6 office hours and a new approval hierarchy for all projects." I felt my heart racing as I raised my hand. The room went quiet. I rarely spoke at these meetings. "Mark, with respect, that approach contradicts everything that's made our team successful. Our best innovations came from the creative freedom people have here. Changing that overnight will destroy morale and productivity." The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Mark's smile never reached his eyes as he responded, "That's an interesting perspective, Jamie. Let's discuss privately after the meeting." That private discussion never happened. Instead, 2 weeks of cold shoulders followed, culminating in a Friday afternoon meeting with HR where I was branded a culture problem and offered a severance package. 15 years of my life, from startup to industry leader, ended with a manila envelope and a security escort. "You just don't align with where the company is headed," explained Diane from HR, avoiding eye contact. "Silicon Dynamics needs team players who embrace our vision." My colleagues watched in stunned silence as I carried my small box of possessions through the open workspace. Only Raj, my longtime developer, dared to give me a quick hug, whispering, "This place won't be the same without you." He had no idea how prophetic those words would become. 6 months later, I was knee-deep in building my own startup in a converted warehouse in East Austin. I'd gathered a small team of brilliant minds who believed in my vision of creating enterprise software with soul. We'd just secured our first round of funding when my phone started blowing up with texts from former coworkers. "Things are falling apart here. 3 more people quit today. The Rivera account is threatening to walk." I tried to ignore them. Silicon Dynamics wasn't my problem anymore. I was creating something new, something better. But then came the voicemail that changed everything. "Jamie, it's Mark. I know this is ... unexpected. We need to talk. The company, your company too, once is in trouble. Real trouble. Call me back, please." His voice sounded different, humbled, desperate even. As I stared at my phone, memories flooded back. The all-nighters we'd pulled to meet impossible deadlines. The champagne toast when we landed our first $1 million client. The team retreats where we'd built more than strategy. We'd built family. What they had labeled a culture problem was actually the culture they now missed desperately. The question was, would I let them suffer the consequences of their actions, or return to save what remained of the company I once loved? What I didn't realize then was that returning would uncover the shocking truth behind why I was really forced out, and it had nothing to do with culture at all. I stared at Mark's name on my phone for what felt like hours, my thumb hovering over the callback button. The warehouse space around me hummed with the energy of my new team, people who believed in me when Silicon Dynamics had tossed me aside like yesterday's technology. "Everything okay, boss?" asked Leela, our UX designer who'd left a cushy job at Google to join my vision. "Yeah, just ghosts from the past," I replied, pocketing my phone. I wasn't ready to make that call, not yet. That night, I couldn't sleep. My loft apartment in downtown Austin, with its exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lady Bird Lake, usually brought me peace. But tonight, memories of Silicon Dynamics played on loop in my mind. By morning, my curiosity won. I called Mark back. "Jamie, thank God," he answered on the first ring. "Can we meet?" "In person." We agreed on neutral ground, Mozart's Coffee on Lake Austin. As I pulled into the parking lot, I spotted Mark, already seated on the deck, looking nothing like the confident CEO I remembered. His designer suit was replaced by a rumpled button-down, and dark circles shadowed his eyes. "You look like hell," I said, sliding into the chair across from him. He attempted a smile. "Turns out running a company into the ground is exhausting work. What happened, Mark?" "Last I checked, Silicon Dynamics was profitable with a solid client base." He stared into his coffee. "Everything you warned us about came true, but faster and worse than anyone predicted. After you left, morale tanked. Then the exodus began, first your team, then marketing, then sales. The Rivera account was just the beginning. We've lost 12 major clients in 4 months. And now you want me to come back and fix it?" I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. "I want you to save what we built together," he said quietly. "Before it's too late." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Raj. "Did Mark call you?" "Don't trust him. There's more to the story. Meet me at Torchy's on South Congress. Come alone." I excused myself from Mark, claiming I needed time to think about his offer. 2 hours later, I sat across from Raj in a corner booth at Torchy's Tacos, the smell of queso and lime filling the air between us. "They're selling the company," Raj whispered, sliding a folder toward me. "That's why they pushed you out. You were the obstacle." "What are you talking about?" I opened the folder to find internal emails and meeting notes. "Remember Tech Giant's acquisition offer last year? The one our board unanimously rejected because it would have meant dismantling our teams and absorbing just our IP. I nodded. I had been particularly vocal about protecting our people and culture during those discussions. Mark and a few board members never gave up on that payday. They've been positioning for a sale all along. But they needed to restructure first. Make us look more like a traditional corporate entity that Tech Giant could easily absorb. Before I could fully process this betrayal, my phone lit up with notifications. 3 back-to-back texts from unknown numbers. "The board meeting about the sale is tomorrow at 9 a.m. They don't have final signatures yet. You could still stop this." I looked up at Raj, my mind racing. How many of the original team are still there? Maybe 40%. But they're all hanging by a thread. "Jamie." I picked up my phone to call Mark, but another text came through, this one with an attachment. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was an internal memo outlining the post-acquisition staff redundancy plan. Over 200 people, families, mortgages, lives, reduced to a spreadsheet of disposable assets. Before you could call me a culture problem, you needed me gone to dismantle the culture I'd helped build. If I do this, if I try to save the company, I need to know who I can trust. I told Raj, and I need to understand exactly what we're up against. What Raj said next made my stomach drop. The conspiracy ran deeper than I could have imagined, and stopping it would require more than just showing up at a board meeting with righteous indignation. It would require something I'd never done before. Something that could destroy both Silicon Dynamics and my new startup in one fell swoop. The sun hadn't even risen when I assembled my emergency response team at our warehouse office. Leela, Raj, and 3 trusted former Silicon Dynamics employees huddled around my makeshift war room. Table, a ping-pong table we'd rescued from a startup that had gone under. "We have less than 4 hours before the board meeting," I said, spreading out the documents Raj had given me. "Mark thinks I'm considering his desperate plea to return. But what he doesn't know is that we're about to execute Plan Phoenix." "You're really going through with it?" Leela asked, her eyes wide with equal parts admiration and concern. 200 people will lose their jobs if we don't act," I replied. "People who believed in the culture we built." Raj pushed his glasses up his nose. "The most damning evidence is this email chain between Mark and Calvin West at Tech Giant." He pointed to printouts showing timestamps from 3 months before I was ousted. "They were discussing removing cultural roadblocks. That's you. Even while you were leading the team that landed the Westfield account." My pulse quickened as I read through the emails. They described me as too focused on people over profit, and the primary culture problem preventing necessary restructuring. "You realize what we're about to do? Borders on corporate espionage," whispered Maya, our legal advisor, who had quit Silicon Dynamics the day after I was forced out. It's whistleblowing, I corrected. And sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right. At 7:30 a.m., I received another anonymous text. West Wing Conference Room. Side entrance code 4931. Security cameras disabled 8:45 to 9:15. Our inside person came through, I announced. But we need one more piece to make this work. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd memorized years ago. Rivera Innovations. This is Catherine. Catherine, it's Jamie. I need to speak with Edward. It's urgent. 20 minutes later, I had secured what we needed from Rivera, Silicon Dynamics, largest former client, and a company that had followed me when I left, rather than stay with Mark's new vision. By 8:40 a.m., I was slipping through the side entrance of Silicon Dynamics' sleek downtown office building, a place I once considered my second home. The hallways felt eerily familiar yet foreign, like revisiting your childhood house after strangers have moved in. I made my way to the executive floor, nodding to familiar faces whose expressions morphed from shock to something like hope when they saw me. Word spread quickly, whispers following in my wake. Jamie's back. Is it true? Are you stopping the sale? I slipped into the bathroom to steady my nerves. The person in the mirror looked different than the one who'd been escorted out of this building 6 months ago. That person had been devastated, humiliated. Today's version wore a determination like armor. At 8:55, I positioned myself in the alcove outside the boardroom. Through the glass walls, I could see them assembling Mark, the board members, and 3 representatives from tech giant, including Calvin West himself with his trademark red bootie. My phone vibrated. Raj, live stream ready. 142 current employees watching, 89 former employees, Rivera and 4 other clients standing by. I took a deep breath. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone who'd been labeled a culture problem for caring about the human side of business. Before I could lose my nerve, I pushed open the door and strode into the room. Jamie. Mark paled. This is a closed meeting. I think you'll want me to stay, I said calmly, connecting my laptop to the projector, especially since I have something all your potential buyers should see before signing anything. Calvin West leaned forward. What is the meaning of this interruption? I looked him directly in the eyes. Silicon Dynamics isn't what you think it is. And I'm here to show you what happens when you gut the culture that made a company valuable in the first place. This is ridiculous, Mark sputtered, rising from his chair. Security. Before you do that, I said, bringing up the first slide. You might want to know that this presentation is currently being live-streamed to your employees, your former employees, and 5 major clients who are on standby to make public statements. The room fell silent. On the screen appeared the internal memo detailing the planned layoffs, followed by the email chain discussing my removal. Now, I continued, clicking to the next slide. Let me show you what the company you're trying to buy is actually worth after driving away its cultural foundation. The financial projections I displayed made Calvin West's face darken with each passing second. But what I revealed next would change everything. Information so explosive that it would force both Silicon Dynamics and tech giant to reconsider not just this deal, but their entire approach to business. Before I could share it, my phone lit up with a new message that made me freeze. The stakes had just gotten much, much higher, and I had seconds to decide if I was willing to risk everything, including potential legal consequences, to save the culture I'd built. I glanced at my phone and felt my blood run cold. The message was from Janet Morrison, NASDAQ's Chief Compliance Officer. Evidence of insider trading detected between SD and tech giant executives. SEC investigation launching tomorrow. This changed everything. Before I continue, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. You should know that what I'm about to reveal goes beyond corporate culture disputes. This isn't just unethical. The boardroom temperature seemed to drop 20 degrees. Mark's face drained of color. I clicked to the next slide. Financial transactions linking 3 board members in tech giant executives to suspicious stock movements preceding our restructuring announcements. While gutting our company of its talent, I explained, certain individuals have been profiting from predictable stock fluctuations. The SEC is already investigating. Calvin West slammed his portfolio shut. This meeting is over. Actually, I countered, it's just beginning. You have two choices: walk away from this toxic deal facing a public relations nightmare and potential indictments, or help me salvage what's worth saving. The livestream counter on my phone showed over 300 viewers now. I felt the weight of their futures in my hands. Here's my counter proposal, I said, revealing my final slide. A collaborative partnership between tech giant Silicon Dynamics and my new venture. We retain the teams, merge our technologies, and create something revolutionary. I leaned forward. What made this company valuable was never just code, it was the culture that produced innovation. You tried to extract one without the other. That experiment failed. The boardroom remained silent until Calvin West unexpectedly chuckled. You were right about one thing, Mark, he said. Jamie is indeed your culture problem because they understand what you've forgotten. Culture isn't just a corporate buzzword. It's your competitive advantage. Before Mark could respond, the boardroom doors opened. The FBI had arrived. What happened next would redefine Silicon Dynamics forever and prove that sometimes the biggest culture problem might just be your greatest asset. If you've been enjoying this story, make sure you're still subscribed to our channel. YouTube has been removing subscriptions lately, so check that bell icon and leave a like to support more content like this. Now, let's see how this corporate standoff reaches its explosive conclusion. The FBI agents filed in with practiced precision, their faces expressionless as they approached Mark and the board members implicated in my slides. I stood motionless, watching as years of corporate manipulation unraveled before my eyes. 3 months later, I sat in our renovated Silicon Valley office, surrounded by the teams we'd managed to save. After the dust settled, tech giant had withdrawn their acquisition offer, replacing it with something more valuable, a genuine partnership. Without the corrupt leadership, both companies discovered we were stronger together. The quarterly numbers just came in, Alina announced, bursting into my office with her typical energy. Our collaborative platform outperformed projections by 32%. I smiled, remembering the chaos that had brought us here. Who would have thought exposing corporate corruption would lead to the most successful quarter in company history? The Wall Street Journal had called it Silicon Valley's most dramatic boardroom showdown in decades. The SEC investigation revealed deeper corruption than even I had suspected, with Mark and 2 board members now facing federal charges. As for me, they offered me the CEO position, but I declined. Instead, I took on a new role, Chief Culture Officer, with Alina as our new CEO. You know what's ironic? I said, watching our teams collaborating across the open workspace. They called me the culture problem when I was actually fighting to preserve the culture that made us valuable in the first place. That's the thing about corporate culture, it isn't some fluffy concept to put on your website. It's the invisible backbone that determines whether your company thrives or collapses. Sometimes, being the problem means you're the only one seeing clearly. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Corporate America needs more voices willing to stand up for what's right, and I'd love to share more insights with this community. Thanks for being part of this journey.